Today, I want to talk about a local market story that I think says a lot about where residential real estate stands right now. And that story is in Midland, Michigan. This is not one of those giant national headlines that everyone's talking about. It's actually more useful than that. It's local, it's specific, and it gives us a very clean example of what's happening in many housing markets as we move deeper into the 2026 spring season. According to local reporting, Midland's March market showed stronger buyer activity and more listings after a quieter January and a steady February. Closed sales were actually a little lower than the same month a year earlier, slipping from 31 down to 28. But at the same time, the average sale price rose sharply from $283 to $313.6, and the average time on market dropped from 45 days to just 25. That's a meaningful shift. So what does this actually tell us? First, it tells us buyers are still in the game. There's been a tendency in real estate content to swing between extremes. Either the market is crashing or everything is booming. Most of the time, neither is true. Midland looks like the market where buyers have not disappeared. They've just become more selective, more analytical, and more responsive to value. That's important because it changes how agents should communicate with sellers. In a market like this, you can't just say inventory is low and expect every listing to fly off the shelf. That's too simple. What Midland appears to show is that demand is present, but it's rewarding homes that are positioned correctly from day one. The local reporting specifically noted that homes in the 200 to 350 range were especially competitive. That middle band is often where affordability, practicality, and real buyer demand intersect. When a property in that band is priced right and presented well, buyers still move quickly. Now, let's talk about the price increase, because on the surface, that might surprise some people. If closed sales were down, how did the average sale price rise so much? There are a few possible explanations. One is mix. A market can post higher average sale price simply because a greater share of the homes that sold were at a higher price point. Another is that well-prepared, well-priced homes are attracting stronger offers, even if total transaction volume is not exploding. And another is that limited supply is still putting a floor under pricing in desirable local markets. That's why I think the most important metric in this story is not just average sale price. It's the drop in days on market from 45 to 25. That tells us urgency still exists, but it's concentrated. It's not everywhere. It's attached to the right listings. For listing agents, this is a great case study in setting expectations. Sellers may hear that prices are up and assume they can push their number higher. But the lesson here is not that the market will forgive overpricing. The lesson is that the market will reward accuracy, and that's a very different message. In a selective market, overpricing becomes more dangerous because buyers are watching more carefully. They're comparing options. They're stretching budgets less casually. If a home misses the mark, it can be ignored faster and need a reduction sooner. The local report even highlighted that pricing strategy is becoming more critical and that overpriced listings are more likely to sit and face markdowns. For buyer agents, this story matters too. A lot of buyers assume that if national headlines sound uncertain, that means they can move slowly everywhere. But local conditions can be very different. Midland suggests that buyers may have more choices than they did during the most frenzied periods, but they still need to act decisively when the right property appears. So the coaching point for buyers is not panic. It's preparation. Know your numbers. Know your neighborhoods. Know what price band is moving. And understand in a market like this, the best listings can still create competition. Now, let's zoom out to the content angle, because I know this is where a lot of agents and broker owners can get real value from a story like this. This is exactly the kind of local market update that performs well because it's grounded in geography and intent. It's GEO and AEO friendly because people are increasingly searching for very specific local answers. They're not just asking, how's the housing market? They're asking, what is happening in Midland right now? Or, are homes still moving fast in Midland? Should I list my home this spring in Midland, Michigan? That means agents who create content around stories like this are not just posting for engagement. They're building relevance. They're becoming easier to find when people search for local housing insight. That's the real opportunity here. If you're an agent in Midland or a similar market, this story can become a short video, a listing presentation point, a seller email, a buyer update, a blog post, a LinkedIn article, and a conversation starter. One well-reported local market shift can create an entire content ecosystem. And for brokers, this is also a leadership opportunity. Your agents need help moving beyond generic market commentary. They need market-specific language they can use confidently. They need examples of how to turn real local numbers into education and authority. Midland gives us a simple message with real value. The spring market is active. Supply is still tight. Buyers are engaged. But the advantage goes to the listings that are priced and positioned correctly. This is a message sellers need to hear. This is a message buyers need to understand. And that is the message agents need to build content around right now. So if I were summarizing Midland's March housing story in one sentence, it would be this. The market is not easy, but it is responsive. And in a responsive market, strategy wins. If you're creating content for your local area, look for stories like this. The smaller, more specific, and more relevant they are, the more useful they'll usually become.